Welcome to Learn with Nana. Today we'll be discussing about anion gap. From my previous video, we have talked about the causes of the acid-base imbalance. I have written in my slides that in the causes of the metabolic acidosis, the diabetes mellitus has a high anion gap, while the renal failure and diarrhea has a normal anion gap. Now what does that mean? And why do we have to know what is anion gap? Now, an anion gap is used to assess what causes the metabolic acidosis so that the doctors and the medical health workers can appropriately treat the patient. We'll be able to identify if the patient's metabolic acidosis is caused by either the accumulation of fixed acids or an excessive loss of bicarbonate. To calculate the anion gap, we have this law of electron neutrality. It simply means it must have an equal number of positively charged ions and negatively charged ions in the body fluids. So we have here the cation sodium, which is 140, minus the sum of the anion chloride, which is 105, plus bicarbonate 24. Now the normal range for the anion gap is 9 to 14 milliequivalent per liter. Now an anion gap that is greater than 14 means that the metabolic acidosis is caused by the accumulation of fixed acids in the blood. Now where does these fixed acids come from? It may be either with the lactic acidosis or the ketoacidosis, because these fixed acids produce hydrogen ion that are buffered by the bicarbonate. Now what is the buffer? The buffer and the buffering system will be discussed in a separate video. Knowing what causes the metabolic acidosis, we'll be able to know how to appropriately treat the patient. Example, for lactic acidosis, we will give oxygen therapy to reverse the accumulation of lactic acids. Now, if it is caused by ketoacidosis, the patient will be given insulin therapy to help facilitate the movement of glucose into the cells and to normalize the metabolism. On the other note, if the metabolic acidosis is caused by excessive loss of bicarbonate, like from renal failure or diarrhea, it will have a normal anion gap. And that will be called a hyperchloremic metabolic acidosis. This is because the bicarbonate level decreases or is lost, a chloride takes its place. A chloride is increased, that's why it is called hyperchloremic metabolic acidosis, and we must maintain the electron neutrality. Okay, let's recap everything. So, the metabolic acidosis is accompanied by an increased anion gap or a normal anion gap. An increased anion gap is caused by accumulation of fixed acids, which is from ketoacidosis or lactic acidosis. And the normal anion gap is caused by loss of bicarbonate, which is caused by renal failure or severe diarrhea. Now, if it is caused by lactic acidosis, the patient requires oxygen therapy because the lactic acidosis happens when the patient is in hypoxemia and the body have an anaerobic metabolism. Now, if it is caused by ketoacidosis, which happens to a diabetes mellitus patient, the patient needs insulin therapy because the ketones acids comes when the fat burns to make energy for the body. Now, thank you for listening to my lecture. Hit the subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video.